We're starting the show today with this astonishing fallout at the BBC. We'd love your calls on it. Trump versus the BBC. This is the Mail. Sums it up pretty well. There's the departing news executive, Deborah Turness. And it says, Trump tells the BBC, grovel or I'll sue you for $1 billion. That is because Trump's lawyers have sent a letter threatening legal action unless the BBC responds appropriately by the end of the week. It's over the editing of Trump's January the 6th speech in 2021. In Panorama, which the BBC chair has admitted was wrong, they cut together two parts, which essentially altered what Trump said. So this was the original.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
This was the edited version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol and I'll be there with you and we fight.
So no defense of that, is there, that edit?
None at all. As far as the libel action goes, which is something, or defamation, something completely different. First of all, no British court is ever going to award $1 billion, obviously. But the whole purpose of a lawsuit is to establish your reputation, to combat reputational damage. Now, Trump's been thoroughly vindicated because everybody now knows that the BBC fiddled the report. So we all know that. So he's been vindicated. So I'm not in favour of him pursuing it any further beyond asking for an apology, which I think is reasonable. Well,
let's have a look. This is his letter here from the Trump legal team. It's 4 pages long, and we've sort of summed it up over here because essentially it's 3 things at the heart of this letter, which Mr. Trump's lawyers are saying he requires from the BBC. So, President Trump hereby demands that you, 1, issue a retraction. That won't be a problem. They surely will. 2, issue an apology. That's sort of almost happened already. But then the third one is the problem. Appropriately compensate President Trump for the harm caused. If the BBC does not comply with this by basically Friday in the evening, our time, President Trump will be left with no alternative but to enforce his legal and equitable rights, blah, 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 $1 billion. And at that point, the BBC just falls over and says, well, they're turning their pockets out. Anne says it won't happen, but I don't know, because...
Not in a British court.
No, it won't happen in a British court, but it could happen in an American court, Henry, because the BBC has interest in America, needs to operate in America.
Yes, but I'm not sure about the legal framework in the States. I mean, the question invites us to decide whether or not we support Donald Trump or the BBC. Well, let's compare them. One is an august broadcaster, the most revered in the world, that produces hundreds of thousands of hours of news, current affairs, entertainment, sport. It is the most trusted news broadcaster in the States, let alone in the UK. And the others is a multiple convicted felon, an insult comic who has managed to persuade certain groups in America that they're being overtaken, that they're being invaded, and only he can restore them to some kind of mythical greatness. He's shaken down television. He's shaken down television companies in the States. He's trying to do the same here.
Right.
He's insulted presidents of Ukraine, of South Africa.
So
he's insulted our own country, as has JD.
What about on the day itself of the insurrection, when people invaded Congress? Is it not true to say that he was partly responsible for that?
He certainly didn't make the speech that they have shown him making.
But that's a legalistic thing.
No, you're inviting me to go down a sidetrack to avoid actually facing the issue, which is that your most revered and most respected broadcaster in the whole world, certainly not in the UK, they're no longer.
I think it is.
They deliberately spliced 2 things together that created a completely different impression. Now, I'm actually less concerned about the big chaps resigning than I am about whoever that journalist was who produced that, because
fair comment.
That is what bothers me.
But hang on. I just want to say that the issue is being legalistic about this. Did the speech tell people to fight and go down to Congress?
There is a difference between fighting physically,
of course,
and fighting. I mean, I might say, and Reform will fight this. I don't mean they'll do it literally.
But not all people are intelligent enough to understand that.
Yeah,
It might be they hear the word fight and they go and have a fight.
Oh, well, if we've got to gear everything we say to the least intelligent member of the public, then, God help us, we'll never be able to make any points.
Henry, what do you mean? It's a good defence. I mean, and in the end, it's unquestionable. The thing was misedited. We know that.
It was misedited, but what about the actual essence of what the president was doing that day? He told people to get down there to the ellipse on January the 6th. He said it's going to be wild, okay? If you look at the bits that the BBC left out, he talked a lot about the election being stolen. We can't take it anymore. The president, as in Biden, will be an illegitimate president. And look at the people, something like 200 or so of them, who went to court and who were prosecuted, and they said, we went down there and we did what we did because we thought we were answering the president's call. They made it very quick, very clear. And remember, he pardoned 1,500 people on the day he came back into office, on the 21st of January this year, many of whom were violent attackers who beat up police officers. And only this week, he pardoned 76 different people, including Rudy Giuliani.
It's got nothing to do with the misreporting.
No. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
He says his reputation has been damaged. I would say he has no reputation left.
Okay.
And that's his own doing.
Oh, so it's fine to misreport him, therefore?
No.
I mean, for heaven's sake. I cannot believe that anybody would defend what the BBC
No, I'm not defending what the BBC did. I'm saying
it's
we're being gaslit because what he did and what he said was worse. And he sat by as people went into the Capitol to try and hang Mike Pence and kill Nancy Pelosi and sat there nodding his head, refused to get involved for 2 hours. Because he approved of what they did.
So Henry is saying he did bad.
He wasn't exactly inciting it.
I can see the difference in the argument here. You're saying that the specific thing the BBC accused him of wasn't true. Fair enough. Henry said he did other bad things that were just as bad.
Yep.
That's essentially what we're talking. He's not justifying the misediting.
Exactly.
He's saying that he's guilty of other stuff.
That's like saying that it's OK in court to convict somebody of something because actually they might have done it on a different occasion. That is not right.
Framing someone
you know that I've talked endlessly on this programme about the impartiality of the justice system.
I understand.
And this is not just.
You two, this is fascinating.
Yeah, but Anne, he claims he's suffered reputational damage. If anyone has damaged his reputation, it is him over the last 10 years. In fact, before that, I mean, he's 6 times bankrupt. He doesn't pay his suppliers. His reputation is toast. When he goes to world gatherings, people laugh at him.
Okay. Whether or not he pays his suppliers has got nothing to do with the fact that this great, revered, most trusted organisation quite deliberately misrepresented what he said.
I understand.
Quite deliberately.
I understand.
If it had been an accident, fair enough, but it wasn't.
But did it give him reputational damage? I would say no, because his reputation is deservedly terrible.
Oh, right. Well, that's an interesting. We've got pictures, I think, of the guys who resigned yesterday. So the Director General Tim Davey, and on the left, and Deborah Turness on the right. Ms. Turness was the head of news. Tim Davey was the DG. I personally thought he was very, very good at his job. It's a very hard organisation to run. You probably agree with that.
I agree with that entirely.
It's an ungainly organisation with a lot going on in it.
And he has had problems throughout trying to get his policy of impartiality.
Yeah, I mean, he always said that's what I want to do.
He's had problems throughout, which is why I think that the odium should be falling on the person. I don't even know who it was. The person who did that splice.
A randomer somewhere, probably. After the break, we're taking your calls on Trump versus the BBC. Who do you back? The US president wants an apology from the BBC over that edited Panorama clip, and he says he will sue for $1 billion. Give us a call now with your thoughts. 020 7862 2222 is the number you need. Before the break, we asked, despite having no coastline, which country has a national holiday called the Day of the Sea? We gave you Bolivia, Moldova. The third one was Hungary, but the answer's Bolivia. And do you know what happened? Is that Chile, when I suppose Chile became a country, that was Bolivia's coastline.
Oh, right.
And because Chile nicked Bolivia's coastline as they see it, they then have a special holiday called the Day of the Sea because they didn't have any. It's like we should have a holiday called the Day of the what? The day of the...
Day of the invasion? I don't know.
No. Something that we don't have. You know, the Day of the good weather or something.
Yeah.
Later,
Day of the sun.
The Day of the Sun. Should we stop sending women to jail? We're asking later. It's reported the government will try to move some current female offenders out of prison. just to get the blokes in there, because we haven't got any cells for blokes. Maybe we don't need to lock up women at all. Just one or two. Well, one or two mass murderers, and that's it. First, who are you backing between Donald Trump and the BBC? He's threatening to sue the corporation over the editing of a clip of him in an episode of Panorama, BBC Panorama. And let me just show you what's going on. He's got a record of taking broadcasters on, and he's now trying to give the BBC a hammering. Look at this AI of Trump versus the BBC, smashing it, trying to get money out. Is there any money in there? Can he get his $1 billion? I don't know. If he hits it hard enough, maybe you'll get some notes out. Here we go. All right. So this is what he wants to do here. Oh, now it's blown open completely. Is to take the BBC for $1 billion. He's already succeeded with other broadcasters. So ABC News, these are all different battles. Associated Press. National Public Radio is a kind of state-funded, almost like an equivalent to the BBC in America, but poorer. Paramount Global, Stephen Colbert was CBS, Wall Street Journal battle, Jimmy Kimmel battle, New York Times battle. He's fighting a lot of these organizations, all in different ways, not all through the courts, but some. So a good example of lawfare, if you like, is ABC News. Let me show you. ABC News has a presenter called George Stephanopoulos. Used to work for Clinton. Trump probably hates him. And there was a case involving this woman, E. Jean Carroll. And she won a massive payout after she said Trump had sexually abused her. It was a New York court. It didn't find that he raped her, but it used the phrase sexual abuse or sexual assault. Stephanopoulos then said in an interview that Trump was liable for rape, which was technically a mistake. ABC News then settled $15 million they paid Trump on what was arguably a technicality over that case. Second one, Associated Press, sort of hilarious this. He decides the Gulf of Mexico needs to be renamed the Gulf of America. Associated Press say, we're not going to do that. Sorry. He kicks them out of White House briefings. They lose in court. They refuse to state the facts or the truth. Fake news, says Trump. These two presenters next. Stephen Colbert sacked. Jimmy Kimmel sacked, then reinstated, both after political pressure, and CBS and ABC obviously are sensitive to a push from the White House. And then Kamala Harris, who gave an interview to Paramount, they edited it, and he said, well, the edit made her sound more coherent than she was. It was a word salad, the interview. Paramount, incredibly, say, yeah, you're right, and they pay $16 million over an edit to a Kamala Harris interview. There's the fin of the shark. Against broadcasters, Trump wins. That's got to be the logic of this. It's got to be the logic. They pay up.
Well, they shouldn't. They cave in time and again. I'm glad to see that the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal are saying, do your worst. And when it comes
still fighting, yeah.
Yes, and when it comes to editing things to make Kamala Harris look better, well, Fox News have done this multiple times with him. But he doesn't complain then.
Well, the Kamala one was something to do with Gaza, and they said that you put one version of an answer out on one channel and another version out on another channel. Both of them made her sound coherent, but if you put them together, you realise she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe there's a bit of sympathy there, but 16 million?
Oh, well, I've already said, I mean, I think the sums of money are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I know it's the American culture. I know that. But it's absolutely ridiculous. And
he sued for 20 billion. He got 16 million. He sued for 20 billion. But I tell you what, for the BBC, okay, whether they pay him $500,000 or $1 million or whatever, if they pay him even a penny, it's a really devastating blow, isn't it? To have to, even because that sort of symbolic amount you could end up paying.
Well, the thing is, it will open the floodgates because there are lots of leaders who don't like their portrayal on the BBC, one of whom might be Vladimir Putin. You know, it will make lots of other people say, hey, that BBC defamed me, it constantly attacks me, Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. There might be a route here for me to get some redress.
Where's the leverage for them? Because Trump has more leverage. Michael in Swansea, are you on the BBC side here or Trump's?
Well, I'm not really on any side. Good morning, really, and I'm not a Trump supporter by any means at all. And he is quite litigious, so you know, in a way, it's kind of to be expected. I think the BBC have got no choice but to apologise. Yeah. I think they should apologise on all the channels in the UK. And then I think what they should, obviously apologise to Mr. Trump, and then I think what they should do is offer a charitable donation to a charity of Mr. Trump's choosing, £10,000, £20,000 or dollars, and hopefully that will assuage his anger. I think they've just got to go for it.
If it will.
You know,
I think he
really.
will want several million, but I don't know. As
I
Anne
think
says,
that
I
might
don't know
just-
which court you fight that through. I don't.
No British court is going
The
to
British
award
libel
those
courts
sums of
now
money.
don't do those numbers anymore because they ended up with libel tourists, they were called, who were coming to Britain to fight cases. Thank you, Michael. Andrew in London, whose side are you on here?
Hi, Jeremy. In thousands and thousands of reports the BBC have done on Trump, they made an editorial mistake. Let's not forget that people died on that day, and we should not succumb to this bully. The BBC is the British Broadcasting. It's done a great job. It's like a cousin that upsets us from time to
But
time.
Anne has made the point that he's come at the BBC over one particular error that is indefensible. Now, so the BBC can't make an excuse for it.
Not even an error. It's not even an error. It's a deliberate.
Jeremy, they've made an apology, and it's the people on Anne's side that have been trying to destroy the BBC from within.
Is that right?
For a long time.
From within?
The BBC is British Broadcasting. It's not American Broadcasting.
Yeah.
We don't do bribes. We don't do this kind of like,
But we
let's
do
bow to this felon.
Don't chunt
This
it.
man is a felon. This man is a crook. Let's have it.
He's a crook, and you can't lose to a crook. Let's do a note that you can't damage the reputation of a felon.
Well, actually, you can.
Well, you can't.
And even British libel law says so. I mean, if you say somebody has done something, or you present them as doing something which they haven't done, you actually can damage their reputation.
No.
So, you may not.
If someone has stolen, this is not Trump, but let's say as an example, someone's stolen 25 loaves of bread from a shop, and you said they've stolen 25 bags of crisps. They can't sue over that because they're a thief.
No, but if having stolen the 25 loaves of bread, you subsequently say that in a completely separate incident they stole something else and they didn't and they weren't there. Yes, I mean, that is wrong in law. And that is what I say about impartial justice.
It raises the bar that you have to cross in order to be defamed.
And what we've done here, what the BBC has done here, is it wasn't an error, Jeremy. It was quite deliberate. They made a perfectly deliberate misrepresentation. Now, if you're going to say that the BBC is an impartial organisation which is widely respected, then it really cannot do that sort of thing and get away with it.
Of course, and in multiple news reports, setting aside the Panorama, the BBC did show exactly what he said on the day, both in the live stream and then in multiple news analysis. This programme went out 3.5 years later, and somebody in an edit suite decided, probably, because he'd been impeached, but got away with it because he didn't make the filibuster the two-thirds limit, and because people had kind of had a settled view about Trump and his encouragement of the violence, somebody took the decision, it doesn't really matter, but that was wrong.
Yeah, I think because it's 4 years later, maybe. I don't know. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying, is it, how bad is it, I suppose? Here's the question for you. Your Reform Party, Nigel Farage's party, who have got, as Henry says, they seem to have it in for the BBC. And what I don't understand is...
They used to say that about the Tories.
Yeah, no, I know.
Of course.
Some people still do.
Of course. Well, it's interesting when the BBC is in crisis, who attacks it and who defends it. That's always the interesting thing. And what I don't understand is, if the BBC has this word British in the title, shouldn't the Reform Party be saying, Reform UK be saying, we love it because it's got the word British. It's a British thing.
If you think that everything British is good, or everything
but
British is bad. No, my party does not believe that everything British is good.
Okay, but
we don't believe the British government is good. For a start, the fact that it's called
not
British
badged up as British government. Okay,
when you look at British brands around the world, what are the biggest brands? Of course, the Royal Families are a huge brand, the Premier League, but the BBC is the biggest British brand out there.
Yeah, Aston Martin. Yeah. After the break, we'll take more of your calls on Trump versus the BBC. It's a fascinating discussion today, isn't it? 0207 862 2222. Whose side are you on in this battle? A billion? We'll see you very shortly. Before the break, we asked what is unusual about a new species of bee in Australia. Blue and black stripes, 12 eyes, or tiny devil-like horns. And thankfully, it is the last one. It's got the devil-like horns. It's a Lucifer bee. Let's see a picture of these horns. Can you see that? Yeah. And later on, we'll talk about the Pope's favourite films.
What's that got to do with horns?
I'll have a guess.
Lucifer bee. Why isn't it called Beelzebub? Beelzebub?
Oh, yeah.
Too late.
Very clever.
It's too late.
No, it's very clever.
Should have got in earlier.
Yeah.
Later, we'll be asking if 15 Gen 2 penguins living at Sea Life London Aquarium should be freed. They've got a nice picture of the outdoors, but they never see the sun. A group of 70... You're very big on your animals, I know. 75 MPs have joined animal welfare activists to say they've got to come out. Do you think that's necessary? Let's get more calls on Trump versus the BBC. This is a real bout, isn't it? Mark in Lancashire, whose side are you on?
I'm on no one's side in particular, but I think what's important is the fact that when I did my PhD, I did an investigation specifically into bias within the British terrestrial broadcasters, both BBC and ITV. And I proved quite clearly that there is undoubtedly bias. But that bias is about choosing the stories and selection, etc., and about gatekeeping, about being British and which short stories we choose. This is completely different. This is deliberately taking two halves of the story, conflating them together, and totally changing what the truth was.
Hang on. When you say totally changing, when you actually read the speech, he does use the word fight a number of times.
You can use the word fight as many times as you like. It's where you put that word in the sentence and how you broadcast it that makes.
Well, let me put this to Henry, because Henry just read the speech recently.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about the election of Biden being illegitimate. He said, we're not going to take it anymore. We've had enough of this cheating. It was very, very clear. He was pumping up and amping up the crowd. They got there because he told them to be there. He said, it's going to be wild. And he said, yeah, we're going to go down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our senators, our brave senators, although we're not going to be cheering some of them very much. The reason why he wanted people to go and cheer them and mass outside the Capitol, because he wanted to intimidate them into not authorising the peaceful transfer of power. That's what that day was all about, Mark.
Mark, do you accept that the thrust of it was correct, even if the edit was wrong?
All over that.
What?
The editing, that I don't disagree with the fact that Trump is an odious person and undoubtedly wanted what happened on January the 6th to happen. The fact of the matter is, though, the BBC, somewhere along the line, the producers, the directors, the editors, and other people involved in that Panorama programme made a deliberate attempt and deliberate decision to alter what had been said and present it in an untruthful manner.
Yeah, but
now the fact that the director general,
given Henry's context, how much does it matter?
Very little. Trump's reputation. I mean, if you go and say that he did something that he did not do, then technically you have committed the act of libel. However, the problem is, have you damaged his reputation? My argument would be that Trump has already damaged his reputation beyond belief.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you've laid that out really clearly, Mark. Thank you very much. And actually, the problem here for the BBC, Henry, I think those people who, Mark's just criticised Trump, you've criticised Trump, those people who want to criticise Trump about his behaviour have had a weapon taken away, because Trump can now say, but all that stuff, it was all fake news.
Well, but he calls everything he doesn't like fake news. Let's remember, this is a guy who was supposed to be the free speech president. J.D. Vance, his vice president, came to the Munich conference earlier this year and said Europe is backsliding on freedom of speech. He said, we are, but the Trump White House has launched the biggest crackdown of freedom of speech in America since the McCarthy period.
Well, David in Shropshire, who are you backing in this fight?
Well, I don't back Trump, nor really the BBC. I mean, the thing is, the BBC is nowhere near as good as it used to be. I mean, what I feel is that the BBC should be partly dismantled and bring in people that's more to the centre, because at the moment the BBC is too woke and too left-wing.
Anne is nodding. Too woke.
I certainly am.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is too woke, and I think there is a heavy bias to the left, which is not even recognised because it's become so normal. I think that is true. Just as a slight sidetrack, and let me say here that I'm speaking as Anne Widdecombe, not as Reform, because we don't have that policy. My view is that the licence fee, for example, should be heavily curtailed, but that we should support the World Service, which I think does a tremendous job, and Radio 3 and serious programmes like...
Radio 3? Where does that come from?
Basically, it's the channels and rights.
I should have said the third programme, shouldn't I?
No. Radio 3 exists. It's just that came out of nowhere. What about Radio 2?
Well,
you don't like the Eagles?
No, can I please make the point I'm trying to make, because you interrupt so often. Nobody knows what I'm trying to say.
No, we've got it.
What I'm trying to say is that there are some very, very serious channels which if they had to compete commercially for advertising, frankly, wouldn't be able to do it. And I don't have a problem with supporting them with the licence fee.
Oh.
Where I have a big problem is supporting the BBC in the loads of programmes that it makes, which are very big, very successful, would get advertising, and yet we're taxed, basically, to pay for them. And I think the BBC should do more standing on its own
So Strictly
feet.
would be an example, or Traitors, or whatever.
Strictly,
You'd
yeah.
want them to be on a channel that runs
And those awful
adverts.
soaps, yeah.
The awful soaps, OK.
But if you think about
Yeah.
it, what would that do to the commercial TV ecosystem? ITV is about to be sold to the people who own Sky, Comcast, because they can't make any money. And if the BBC was then competing for advertising, that would destroy them even more.
I wonder whether if you had the Today programme running adverts, wouldn't that cause an editorial problem? If they got auto glass repair?
It certainly
suddenly
would,
during
which
an
is why
interview?
I've said, there are certain programmes...
Oh, that's one of them as well.
Simply wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah,
Well,
mention mine.
I've got my own view about the Today programme and its bias, but anyway, yeah.
OK. David, are you done? Come back to you if you want.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
We got derailed there by Anne. Sorry. But, no, in a good way.
I agree with Anne, I'm afraid I do, yes.
Don't be afraid. Lots of people do. Thank you very much. Usually we get a call. It's late, actually. Normally by now we've had someone ask for you to be Prime Minister.
Well, I'm available.
We think you've got another cabinet job in you, Anne. We always say it.
No, I'm not standing.
I know you say, yeah, you say that now. James in Belfast, hello.
Hello, Jeremy.
What do you
Good
think?
morning,
Can I ask you to choose a side in this?
Yes, absolutely. I choose the BBC. I'm an Irishman living in Belfast, and I love the BBC. I think Starmer should defend the BBC. I think the soft power that the BBC has is terrific. What they did in the splicing of that documentary was wrong. The editor who did it should be fired. Tim Davie didn't have responsibility over that particular editing decision on that particular day. And I don't think it means that the whole organisation is biased. I think that it gets attacked from both sides, and I think that means it's working. I think the whole world has gone to the right, so sometimes a bit of left exposure is good and brings balance.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a double-handed compliment, isn't it? Because I think they wouldn't see themselves as being left leaning. But you're right.
No,
there's such a big culture wars thing going. How do they cover the trans issue, for example? How do you do if you've got a campaign?
They've been criticised in that memo.
Well, I know
for the way that they have covered it.
I know, but they've tried to get both sides by getting people who are involved in the issue.
But the whole thing about working for the BBC, you worked there for a long time, I worked there for a long time as an insider and as a freelancer, is you're supposed to leave your political opinions at the door, and people aren't supposed to know by what you put on air. No, but it's true.
I would take a large bet on that.
But there are lots of people who worked there during our time who we found out years later were really kind of hardcore conservative with both the small C and someone like Robbie Gibb with a big C. You know, and there'll be people who are centre-left, and most people are probably broadly in the centre, depending on what the issue is.
You've got 20,000 people in there. You're going to have people who are political, but have to hide it or whatever.
And the vast majority are not working.
Sorry,
but the vast majority are not working in news and current affairs.
Right.
They're doing all the many other things that millions of people consume and they love.
Thank you for your calls.
Around the world.
We've got to stop there. Later we'll be asking if the London Sea Life Aquarium should release its Gen 2 penguins from their underground home. After the break, though, should we stop sending women to jail? 020 7862 2222 is the number you need. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.